All right, good afternoon. How's everybody? Welcome to America's Mart. Doing well? Oh, chef, I think these good people need some infusion of energy. Don't you?
Absolutely. How about some sugar?
Sugar, maybe sugar? My name's Holly Furfer, and I will be helping Chef Mullaney in the audience with all of you if you have any questions. We're talking about, with Chef James Mullaney, executive pastry chef, sticking and baking. Now, first of all, I will tell you, Chef, I am the worst baker in the world. I make something, half of it ends up in the pan, half of it ends up crumbled in a dish, and it becomes a trifle.
It only takes practice.
So I know we have a lot of questions, but let's talk about, first of all, what is the big deal with sticking? I mean, what's the big sin, and what am I doing wrong off the top of your head?
There could be a number of different problems with it, but one of the things that's out that we're demonstrating today is called the Silpat. It's made by a company out of France called Demarle. It's a non-stick silicone mat that has fiberglass in it. It is absolutely the best, the most revolutionary thing that's happened in the baking and pastry world. And I've been a pastry chef for 30 years, and I started in the Army when we were spraying pans with pan spray and throwing flour on them and knocking it loose, and things would stick. And then we started using parchment paper, which we still use today. But the best thing that's come out is called the Silpat. It's a flexible silicone mat, and nothing sticks to it. And it can be frozen, it can be baked. You can pour sugar on it. You can burn sugar on it. It's like those commercials you see on TV, the little Yoshi pans or whatever, where things don't stick until the first time you do it. These really don't. They've revolutionized the pastry and baking world. Not only do they have the ones or the models or the style of FlexiPan or Silpat that we're working with today, but they also have in food service and like professional kitchens, different shapes. And that really is what has changed the world of baking and pastry completely.
I feel empowered, like I could bake now. Okay, so I'm going to go out into the audience, and if you have any questions during the demonstration, Chef Mullaney said he would be happy to answer some questions, so I'll step away. And Chef James Mullaney, you take it away.
Ask a lot of questions. The best way to learn about things is just to ask the question. I don't know everything about it, but it's one of my favorite things. It's like everybody has their favorite little kitchen gadget that's come out in the last whatever. Silpat for me is that gadget. I have about 30 minutes, so I'm really not going to have a lot of time to do a lot of things, but what I'm going to do is get a few things rolling for you. And this is about the product and not about the ingredients or the recipes. So I'm going to have a couple different things going at any given time. So if you have questions. What I'm making here is pralines, or if you're from New Orleans, it's a praline. Basically, it's forced crystallization with sugar. All I've got in here is a little butter, some heavy cream, some milk, some vanilla, some brown sugar, and some granulated sugar. You cook this up to 240 degrees, and we're going to throw some nuts into it and allow it to crystallize. And at that point, we just spoon them off into a roule pat. A roule pat is kind of like a regular Silpat. It's your silicone mat, except there's silicone on both sides. So when you're putting it down onto a surface, it will not move at all. So this is a lot of what we do. If you've seen it on the Food Network where we're doing all the centerpieces and all that, these sorts of things are ideal for sugar work. But it's also ideal for candies and whatnot. So I've got about 30 minutes, well, maybe 20 minutes. So we should get this made and just in time so you get to taste actually a nice hot praline. We used to do this at my hotel. We would have this as an action station. People would actually walk up to our station, and we would be dropping these right onto the Silpats. Actually, it's what I use there, too. So we're going to let that cook up, stir our nuts into it. When I get done with it, I'm going to place it all off to the side, and it's all there for you to eat. I don't want to take anything home. It's really good for everything. It's not just pastry. I have some chicken wings here that have been pre-blanched, so they're partially cooked right now, and the spicy barbecue sauce. Just going to toss this together, get a nice coating of barbecue sauce onto the wings themselves. I'm going to put this one onto a roule pat. And this is just the basic barbecue sauce that I've added a little bit of sriracha to. Everybody know what sriracha is? It's a real spicy sauce. It's kind of like let's say a Tabasco or something like that. But the great thing about this is you're not going to have any problems with anything sticking. And also, another really good thing about this is cleanup. When you're working with the different products, you can either take them and just wash them, or you can throw them into a dishwasher and walk away. Come back, they're ready to go for the next baking. So into the oven. And everybody likes chocolate chip cookies, right? These are some chocolate chip cookies that I've made in advance. And I placed a silpat onto the pan itself.
So obviously they have different sizes, Chef, so you can put them in different baking
Absolutely.
trays. And by the way, if you want to see these, they're at Herald Imports, which if you look to your right, just down the hallway there, you'll see them down on your left-hand side, correct, Jerlene? Just down there, and they have all of them, and they can answer any questions you have, and you can actually see them, feel them. But if you have any questions about them, Jerlene's here from Herald Imports, and she can answer them.
Little chocolate chip cookies with my barbecued wings. So we're going to have barbecued wing chocolate chip cookies. But they'll be good. Nothing wrong with those.
So you don't have to put anything on it. It just goes right on the mat, and that's it.
That's it.
And it can take heat and cold, anything.
Right. It's really nice when you have different shapes. When you get into the other versions of the FlexiPans and the DeMarley products, you can actually bake products in them, put them into the freezer, and then release them perfectly. Or you can make mousses and put directly into them, freeze them, and release them, and that's how we get those nice, beautiful desserts that we're spraying with color and all of that. These FlexiPans are the best. Excuse me. These. So, how about a little pizza? This is the Silpan, and it looks like it's a kind of a mesh, because it is. This allows steam and hot air to flow through the product itself, also with a liner that's perforated as well. This works great for bread. It's important when you're baking bread to have some sort of steam inside of your oven, and this is one of these things that's just ideal for it. So I've taken a little pizza dough I made up yesterday. Now, I am not going to bake on the sheet pan. If anybody's ever been to a pizzeria, the first thing they do is they make their pizza and then they throw it onto the deck, right? Well, essentially, I'm going to do that. But the problem with that is that sometimes the sauce and everything will come off the pizza a bit, get onto the deck itself. You've got to let it continue baking until it kind of self-cleans itself or burns. It's one of the nice things about the Silpan. Because essentially, you can put it onto the Flexi or the Silpan itself, and pick this up, throw it into the oven once it's finished, and everything comes off with it. So a nice little pizza.
And because it's got the holes in it, it's that mesh, will it crisp up the crust if you like a crispy crust?
It will. It's one of the beautiful things about it. So a little mozzarella cheese and a little blend of cheese. Anybody like pepperoni? We'll put it on half of it. What do you say? Looks like we're cooking away there.
Now, are the other ones mash? The other ones are not mash.
Correct.
The roux pad is not mash.
Whoa. There we go. All right, the pizza's in. How about we check the cookies, see how they're doing? Oh, yeah. Everything's looking good. Pizza will be quick. Little oven mats.
Anybody have any questions at all?
Anything yet? Anybody hungry?
Of course.
Time's coming.
And how thick are they? I mean, they look fairly thin. Do they have them in different thickness, or is it they're all thin like that?
The mats themselves?
Yes.
Are they different
Jerlene,
thicknesses?
here, come on over, Jerlene. Let me ask you about this. Because I don't know if it makes a difference, but are they all one size or one thickness?
The only difference with the thickness is actually with the roll pat. The roll pat is a little thicker because it has silicone on both sides. So it's actually non-slip on your countertop. So when you're rolling out pie dough and everything, everything else has silicone on just the one side. So when you're making your cookies and everything, yeah, it's all the same thickness on that.
Same.
There are different sizes.
Any interest in it
It'll
yet?
fit every single pan that you have.
I'm going to 240 degrees, and I'm sitting at 228 right now, so we're getting pretty close. Once we get up to temp, just knock the nuts into it, let it start to crystallize, and then we'll be spooning them out. And that's the time to eat them.
Any
Absolutely.
other questions?
All right. Ever make a brie en croûte? Something you can make at home. It's relatively easy. You can get puff pastry out of the freezer at the grocery store. Roll it out just a little bit with a sheet or with a rolling pin. A little egg wash. That's basically what I have here. A lot of people like to put water in egg wash. I'm not a big fan of putting water in egg wash. I'm not a big fan of putting salt in egg wash. Egg wash, a lot of times you're using it as a glue, believe it or not. This brie en croûte, essentially we have a piece of puff dough on the bottom. You can see, and there's also a piece of puff dough on the top, so it's almost like a pie. And one of the things that we're using the egg wash for is to glue the puff pastry dough to itself. And it also gives a nice shine to it. What I like to do is mix eggs with egg yolks. Gives you a richer color, nicer shine. Very nice for causing your dough to stick to itself so it doesn't split. But the real key to making a brie en croûte is wrap it today and bake it tomorrow. Doughs like to rest. They really don't like just being put together, thrown into the oven, although I've been in many situations where I had to do just that, where I pull out something at the last minute, oh, I forgot to tell you it's on the menu, or I missed it on a banquet menu or something and had to do this on the fly. But it's ideal to do this a day in advance and let it rest overnight. And then come back, give it a second nice egg wash, and it'll bake up nice. What you're looking for is about 400 degrees for about 15 minutes or so.
What's inside of that?
Brie. A brie cheese. Oh, we're 232. This will happen in just a moment. The Silpat Entremet, I believe I have that correct. Essentially, it's kind of like a small pan. You can bake anything inside of these small pans, like a sponge cake. This is a biscuit. This is a sponge that you might use, say, like in a tiramisu or maybe an opera cake or something like that. It's just a really nice, simple sponge. You can put all sorts of stuff in it. If you ever had a jelly roll, this is the same sponge. It's nice and flexible. But the beautiful thing about these is that it just peels right off. And again, these can be washed. Just throw it in the dishwasher. You're pretty much done with it. You don't have to worry about that any longer. Now, this could be used for just about anything, but the beautiful thing about this is it's nice, sharp edges, and it's clean. It's very easy to work with. Also works for brownies. Who doesn't like a brownie? I will take these and flip them upside down onto a pan just because it becomes mobile and you can move it around. But same basic thing. It just pops right off. There's nothing wrong with that.
Any questions for Chef? I think everybody's amazed.
We're almost there. So a little ganache, essentially just an icing. Any kind of icing will work. I like to use ganache because it's nice and smooth and creamy. Has anybody ever made ganache? Know what it is? Pretty simple. It's chocolate with cream in it and just a little bit of glucose or corn syrup to help it stay nice and smooth. But this design you can do any way that you want. You could just do a simple, almost like a homemade kind of design like this. Put some sprinkle of nuts on top of it. And you've essentially got yourself a nice brownie to eat.
That looked ominous.
2 degrees. 2 degrees.
This is like speed dating. Speed cooking.
So essentially, it's a very nice brownie, nice and moist, has a lot of corn syrup in it. Corn syrup's pretty important when it comes to products like these because it's hygroscopic.
You just did not do that, did you?
Yes, I did.
There was a gasp in the audience when you did that.
There's a lot. There's a lot. Anyway, what I was saying about the corn syrup is that it's important to be in your product because what it does is absorb moisture. So if you ever eaten a brownie, a lot of times you get some professionals who make brownies, maybe they're not from this country. A lot of people from other countries look at brownies as if they're not a good product. So there's a lot of misconception behind them. A lot of brownies end up being dry. A lot of them are kind of crunchy, they're overbaked or whatever. I like a nice, moist brownie. So my brownie has a lot of corn syrup in it. Not a lot, but it's a fair amount of corn syrup. And what it does is you bake your brownie today, put it in your refrigerator overnight, and it absorbs moisture. So the longer it sits in your fridge, up to 3 or 4 or 5 days, it just starts to absorb more and more moisture. Your brownie becomes more and more fudgy, if you will. It's a great process. So we're up to temp right now. And we're going to put our nuts in. And stir. Who makes pralines? Nobody? I think anybody could do this. Yeah? What's that? You can buy a meat thermometer in the store. It goes up to like 230 degrees. You're just right about there. So I'll just stir this for just a minute or so, and this will be ready to spoon out. Oh, you know what? I think we should check our oven. Well, I think we'll give that just another second, but that's just about ready. The wings are very close. The pizza is done.
Dang. That was fast.
Now, the beautiful thing about pizza, of course, it's at a higher temperature, but this just comes right off.
Wow.
Of course, there's nothing on it that had come off and maybe would have stuck in like a regular oven, but even if it had, nothing sticks to these things. They're beautiful. Just reuse them and reuse them. They're good for thousands of uses. I've had these things for 7, 8, 9 years and just kept on using them and using them and using them.
And I noticed that you just picked it up, so it cooled up pretty quickly. It was cool to the touch.
I just have really, really cool hands. But nice little pizza.
Yeah. Can you show us the bottom of the pizza before you cut it?
I'm sorry?
Before you cut it, will you show us the bottom just so we can see how crispy it is? And
can I do what?
The bottom of the pizza.
I can't understand you.
The bottom of the pizza, so we can see how it cooked through.
How about
yes,
that?
Nice. Thank you.
A little golden brown.
Sorry.
I've never had anybody ask me to do that.
There's going to be a lot of firsts today, Chef. Does anybody have any questions about this so far? And again, Herald Imports down to your right-hand side down that aisle. You can see them all and check them out. Look at that. It's a whole buffet. I can tell you were in the military. It's very efficient.
World Championship. Pastry Championship. All those TV programs that you see.
Yes.
I was in 2 of the World Championships.
Wow.
And I had a French chef, the most amazing chef I'd ever worked with in my life, but he would just beat us senseless. We had to get our stuff straight. We had to get our stuff done on time. And there was oh, sorry, oops.
How'd you do in the competition?
The national championship, we took first place in 2005, and the
Wow.
world championship, we took third.
Congratulations.
And then I was part of the team that went in 2009 to France for the World Pastry Cup.
Wow.
And I've been, Chocolate Wars in TLC.
Yeah.
We took first place on that. Been involved with numerous competitions, but you want to be efficient?
It's like
Competition's the way to do it.
the Olympics of cooking. Now, what did you just do there with that?
I've warmed
with the
my
propane
knife.
tank. What does that do?
Allows me to cut the brownie cleaner. especially since I've not taken the ganache and put it back in the fridge to set a little bit. Just allows me to get a nice clean cut.
So when your mom used to dip it in the bucket of water, that doesn't
That
really...
works too.
Oh, it does.
Basically, I have a moist towel, just a fresh towel that I just moistened, and I'm wiping it off. But just a nice cut. And I think there will be enough brownies for just about everybody. But you know, everybody always jokes about pastry people having dull knives. This is why. We cut on metal. We cut on marble. We cut on granite. Oops, you know what? I need some gloves. Oh, that brie's almost ready. Of course, the brie might be a little difficult to eat. The ideal way to do the brie is to bake it and then allow it to cool just like resting meat. You need to rest the brie too, because inside the brie goes fluid. So if you cut into it, it just flows. But it's looking good. Look at that thing sliding around. Oh, my cookies. Careful if you run over to taste one. They're still hot.
Does anybody have any questions?
Same thing with the wings. They're just sliding all over. Good. All right. Any questions? We're just about to the end. There we go. So, are these being sold here?
Yes.
I think you mentioned
Come over
it.
here, Jerlene. So talk about, can they buy them here or order them now?
Yes, order them now at Herald Import. And another good thing about the cookies is if you're like me and you forget that you put the cookies in the oven, it's very hard to burn your cookies using a Silpat. So you can't burn your cookies using Silpat.
Good to know. Very good to know.
And let's see. 35 pieces. I think we got you covered.
Anybody have any questions for Chef Mullaney?
There we go. And these are just about ready. Good.
We have a question for you, Chef.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wondering what the blue tube is?
I'm sorry?
Is that a propane tank? The blue tube, she asked.
Oh, yes. In case you haven't heard, pastry chefs love to go to Home Depot. That's one of our favorite places to hang out.
So you would use that for your creme brulee, for obviously now we know warming a knife.
Warming a knife, it's used for almost anything. I'm really big into working with chocolate, doing chocolate work. You want to talk about the best way to clean? Certainly if you have a marble table or a stainless table, just take the torch over it and melt your chocolate. Instead of scraping all that up, you can just melt it, scrape it up, and reuse it if you like. All right. Let's see, it is time. All right, if you don't have any questions, I'd like to invite you up to actually try some of the product. Everything is just about ready.